Happy Thursday, brothers and sisters. All my Viking brothers out there, happy Thursday. Mad Shad, Ragnarok Prepper, JR. Hope you guys are having a great morning this morning. I woke up, stopped up again, man. Good gracious. Hard to shake this stuff. But I want to give a shout out to Sister Dove J for sending me the email about the home remedy to get rid of mucus. I'll be honest, sis, I saw the email title. It's like mucus. I was like, this is going to be interesting, and it was. I appreciate it. I appreciate all you guys who reach out, man. Let's see who we got hanging out with us this morning. We got a cool show today. We're gonna do something different. Prepper Cowboy in the house. What's up, brother? Good morning, man. Good morning. Good to see you. Rockadoodle Farm. Cockadoodle doo. Good to see you, man. In the rain. Singing in the rain. Joyce, good morning. Good morning. Silver Girl, good morning, sis. Biden definitely needs to hear it, but sadly, I think if he did, he would not remember it the next day. Big Mama Steph, good morning. Good morning. 9-ball playoff match tonight. Good luck, sis. You're going to kill it, man. God, I wish I could watch it. I used to love to play 9-ball. I sucked at it. I was never good at 9-ball. I was slightly better at regular 8-ball pool. I always liked to watch folks who were good at it, man. The strategy, and the skill. So good luck to you. You're going to kill it. I know you're going to kill it. Hillbilly, what's going on? Right? This is where you come, man. This is where all the crazy people hang out because we believe in freedom and the Constitution. Nowadays, that's considered crazy. In my faith, good morning. Snowing in Michigan. Snowing in Michigan. Man, that's strange that it is snowing in Michigan. I can't believe it. In February? Gosh. Nah, better up there than down here. We Carolinians are looking down the barrel of another ice storm this weekend. That's the 4th weekend in a row. That's weird, man. It's like clockwork somehow. Like there's a machine producing weather and they're directing it towards certain areas. Isn't that strange? Not a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. I'm just saying. Roots, rocks, and feathers. Good morning, sis. Today's your husband's birthday. Happy birthday to your husband. Younger son, teacher son, so stressed he sent you the birthday gift instead. No worries. Happy life, happy wife, happy life. I believe in that because I've lived it 100%. Prayers for your son, man. Like I said, I was a teacher for 10 years. I can imagine what it's like nowadays with all the COVID stuff. Every once in a while, I reach out to a friend or I talk to one of my friends who's still a teacher, and they're telling about everything that's going on, especially with the mandates and the lockdowns. But fortunately, we live in a state where that's not as big a deal, as it is in other places. Southern Fried, what's up, my brother? My Floridian brother. Nikki, good morning, sis. Good to see you this morning. Nikki's my buddy. Candle, what's going on, sis? Good morning, good morning. Militant, good morning, brother. What's going on, man? Joe, good morning, good morning. Sonder, good morning, good morning. Dusty Data in the house, good morning, brother. Song of the South, good morning, good morning. Good to see you. Ghetto in the house, what's up, brother? Good morning. Roots, good morning, sis. Good to see you. Sherry, good morning. Good morning, good morning. It's Thursday. I'm a Huckleberry. Good morning, brother. Let's see. Full Monty in the house. Good to see you. Good to see you. Brian Griffin, what's going on? In between prepping. What's up, Nikki? Good morning, sis. All right, guys, we'll get into it. I wanted to cover something that hold on one sec. I didn't see this one. I didn't see it. Stars, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the Brave Nation. I appreciate you. Appreciate you. God bless you. Guardian Prepping, good morning. Good to see you, man. Ridge Runner in the house. What's going on? What's going on? I hope you're having a great day. All right, guys. So anyway, I want to talk about Daryl Davis this morning. I know some of you guys are familiar with him because we kind of mentioned him before a couple of weeks ago. And I noticed in the chat that you guys were familiar with him. Daryl Davis was a musician, all right? He grew up in the 60s. And he experienced racism for the first time. And he had never experienced it at 10 years old. He was in the Cub Scouts, and they were doing a march. People started throwing bottles and rocks at him. And he had the question, how can you hate me if you don't even know me? And it sent him on a lifelong quest to answer that question. And not only that, but to engage in conversation with people like, KKK, neo-Nazis, real racists, And through his discussions with people, he actually educated them and enlightened them and showed them their ignorance and converted them, into truth, to enlightenment. And they turned in their robes. And that's kind of been his lifelong thing. He wrote a book called Clandestine Conversations. It's a good book. I've read it. Where he really delves into these relationships. Not only did he have conversations with them, he formed friendships with people in the Klan, and they realized their entire ideology was nothing. All right. So, but anyway, I want to talk about that because his philosophy of having a discussion with someone that hates you, sitting down with someone who hates you, who is stuck in their ignorance. All right. Because I believe that. I believe racism comes from a place of ignorance. All right. And ignorance leads them to hate. They don't even understand what they're hating. If you look up racism, I have a couple of Webster's dictionaries sitting on my shelf. All right. And they're their older ones before they started changing the words. Webster's comes out with a new dictionary every year. But if you look up the definition of racism in the older versions of the Webster's dictionary, it describes it as the hatred of someone based on their race, religion, or ethnicity. Right. I always would like to add to that, though, but it comes from a place of ignorance. A lot of people, especially in the South, when I was growing up, when I encountered someone who was racist, they were raised into that. They were taught that, and then they unlearned it, as they grew up and realized this is stupid, what my family believed. I had friends who had racist parents or racist grandparents, like real racist, like former Klan members. But they weren't racist, because they went to school, we were fully integrated society, multicultural, and you realize that those ideologies are ignorant. Anyway, now the definition has been changed to mean basically white supremacy. We know that there's an ignorant ideology going around. White people can't experience racism. Racism is only in one direction, all this stuff. That's ignorance. But sitting down and having a conversation with people who believe that is the key. It's not hating people. It's not having violence against them. I mean, we can all get caught up in that sometimes. The whole reason, I got on here is to have conversations with people, is to talk with folks. But anyway, we'll get into it. Let's see. If you're not familiar with him, just to give you a little introduction to what he does.
Ever find at a KKK rally.
Do you think there's a point where kind of crossing the line and helping their cause?
No.
He even calls some of the members his friends.
All right, my friend.
Somebody violated their oath.
My end goal is to bring people together.
Well, I got to get along with them.
Ku Klux Klan, an unashamedly extreme right-wing sect with one fanatical aim, white supremacy.
My people were being squeezed out of existence.
You're not being serious, right? They felt I was inferior.
Well, it don't matter. I don't mind because you don't matter.
You've been trying to infiltrate the Klan, but what does that do for people?
Well, I'll tell you what.
They're not human. There's nothing about these people that are human.
I don't give a shit about you or your KKK hood.
Because I sold out my own race.
It's not like a fetish.
How can you hate me when you don't even know me?
And that's it. That's what we're going to get into. I got some clips I'm going to share with you of a conversation he sat down and had on Joe Rogan's podcast a few years ago. And it was the first time I had ever heard of Daryl Davis. And that's what led me to read his book and to he gives a lot of TED Talks and stuff like that too. But I believe in his philosophy, and he gets flack from both sides, of course. He tries to sit down, with other young people of color who are activists and who want to fight racism and stuff. And he tries to tell them, if you want to fight racism, then you need to go where racism is. You need to find these people. You need to sit down and have a conversation with them, because you need to enlighten them, right? A lot of activists today, they don't want to do that. They want to punch a Nazi in the face, right? You know, they think violence. They want to shut them down. They don't want to have a conversation. They don't want to talk. They just want to shut you down, not talk to you, not hear you, not listen to you, or anything like that. And so he gets flack from both sides. There it is. Guardian Prepping knows ignorance, fear, and hatred. Yep. So that's what I'm going to touch on right now. But so anyway, he talks about how he first encountered racism when he was 10 years old.
Because I had been looking for an answer to a question that I had formed when I was age 10. My question was, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? And this was a result of having marched in a Cub Scout parade at the age of 10, being the only black scout in this parade. And while most people on the streets and sidewalks were cheering us, we were marching from Lexington to Concord, Massachusetts, to commemorate the ride of Paul Revere. And people were like waving flags and yelling and screaming, the British are coming, and all a good time, except for one small pocket of people who were throwing rocks and bottles at me. And at age 10, my first thought was, oh, those people over there don't like the Scouts. That's how naive I was.
Excuse me. I thought this story, because he was in Massachusetts when this happened in the late 60s. I didn't realize that there was that level of racism, you know, in the North, in New England. But oh, good morning, Vaughn. You met Daryl Davis? What was he like, man? Did you talk to him? That's pretty cool. GTP, good morning, man. Big chap in the house. Thought you shadow banned still. Hope not, man. We see you, man. We see you. Independent Minnie, good morning, good morning. All right, so anyway. So he was 10 years old. It was his first experience with racism, you know. And he asked that question, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? And that's a good way to look at racism. If you think about it. When I first got on YouTube, we'd been on here about a month. All right. And at that time, I was trying to interact with people on Facebook. But Facebook is a black hole of nothingness, man. A lot of times you're just interacting with robots or something. But anyway, I did have this one person who was like from the total other end of the spectrum. They've totally bought into the ideology of wokeism, you know. And I had posted something. This was, you know, in the middle of 2020, all the riots and everything that's going on. The cities were burning. And I posted a meme. They were burning the American flag and saying nothing less than revolution. And I posted something against that and saying, you know, if these are, you know, basically if this is what BLM is doing, they're not helping anybody, you know. And so this person took a screenshot of my page and then shared it on their page and said, look at this white supremacist racist. And I was like, dang, I didn't say, I mean, what did I say that was racist, you know? And so I started to engage with her. Actually, it was a guy. It was a drag queen from Miami. But anyway, and I just wanted to have a conversation. And a lot of people from their page and their comments started coming against me and saying all these different things. And that's back when I wasn't showing my face to anybody. And they were saying, you know, yo, you're Native American, you should be totally for BLMs, like, you know. And I said, well, I mean, you shouldn't tell other races what they should or shouldn't believe. We're all individuals. Our race doesn't determine what we believe in, you know. But they didn't want to hear it. And I just tried to have a conversation. Now, the persons whose page it was, I had a good conversation with them. But there were so many woke people who didn't want to hear it. I shared Daryl Davis with them. I said, you know, I believe in the philosophy of Daryl Davis. He's a good guy. He's a great man. He's out there. He's fighting real racism. They didn't want to hear it. You know, they even put him down. They were putting down Martin Luther King. They said none of that peaceful crap works. They say you got to burn down cities. I was like, man. But the one person that I did have a good conversation with, we did kind of become friends, you know, and so his philosophy of sitting down and talking to people works, man. We have to, because there's a nuance to this stuff. It's a cool dude. A lot of racism in the North, more than you think, like this guy explained. Got you. All right, so anyway, so moving on, and he begins to ask the question, why racism? You know, why? Where does it come from?
Because my 10-year-old brain could not process the idea that someone who had never seen me, had never spoken to me, knew nothing about me, would want to inflict pain upon me for no other reason than the color of my skin. So I did not believe them. Well, a month and a half later, that same year, 1968, on April the 4th, Martin Luther King was assassinated. And I remember it very well. We were in Massachusetts, same place, and nearby Boston, Washington, D.C., my hometown, Chicago, Illinois, Philadelphia, Detroit, Baltimore, Richmond, L.A., all burned to the ground with violence and destruction, all in the name of this new word that I had learned called racism. And so then I realized my parents had told me the truth. This phenomenon called racism does exist. But why? I didn't understand why.
Yeah, why? You know, where does it come from? And it comes from ignorance, and he gets into that, you know, garden prepping. He pointed out too that ignorance leads to hatred, or excuse me, ignorance leads to fear, which leads to hatred, which leads to suffering, to destruction. I hate to quote Yoda, but Yoda was right. Yoda didn't come up with that. Okay, that came from the civil rights movement. Deplorable. I did, man. I couldn't see the arrowhead at first. All right, I remember that. And then I told you, and you're like, man, is that why Angry Pepper never talks to me in his chats? It does from far away when it's small. It looks like a dude with a Klan hood on. Oh man, good times, good times. All right, so anyway, so he asked this why, and so later on, a series of events, he actually winds up part of a band that's playing music in a bar where Ku Klux Klan members hang out. All right, and he starts a conversation with them because they enjoyed listening to his music, and that leads him to a chain of events to where he has a meeting with I don't know, the Grand Wizard Dragon Cyclops of the Fifth Order of Maryland or something. I don't know. He was the leader of the biggest group of clan in Maryland. I didn't know Maryland had clan. That's what I mean, man. Like you learn stuff about our history. Because you don't think that, you know, New England states, the northern states would have clan, but they did at one time. They have a lot less now thanks to this gentleman. But anyway, so he's meeting with them in a hotel. They don't know he's black. They assume he's white, and he's going to interview them because he's writing a book about the Klan. All right, and so in walks the Nighthawk.
Opens the door. In walks what is known as the Grand Nighthawk. Nighthawk in Klan terminology means bodyguard, security. So a Grand Nighthawk would be
names. Their names are so ridiculous. Cyclopses and dragons and wizards and Nighthawks.
It goes on and on. It goes on and on.
Of course it does.
A Grand Clud, a Grand Claby, Grand Magi, all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so the Grand Nighthawk, which means bodyguard to the Grand Dragon, like an Imperial Nighthawk would be the bodyguard to the Imperial Wizard. In walks in this Grand Nighthawk. He's wearing military camouflage. And on one side of his chest is that Klan emblem, that red circle, white cross, blood drop. On the other side are the initials KKK. And embroidered on his beret, it said Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. And on his hip, he had a semi-automatic handgun in a holster.
So anyway, so that's what this dude. This was his first meeting, you know, with Klansmen, and then walks the Nighthawk, man. So anyway, they begin to have their conversation after they get after the shock of seeing him as a black man. They decide to stay. You know, the head Klans guy comes in, actually shakes his hand. All right, so anyway, they sit down, they begin to talk, and he just lets the dude's name was Roger Kelly, by the way, if you want to look this guy up. They actually became friends. Roger Kelly denounced the Klan and left. Now, years after this first meeting. You know, so it's not like Daryl Davis, you know, had this idea and he just wrote a book about it. He actually lived it before he wrote the book. He actually put his ideology into practice, you know, and it worked. The guy has over like 200 Klan robes that actual KKK members turned in, and not just them neo-Nazis and all this stuff turned in their stuff to him too. Just by him sitting down and having a conversation with them, you know, or many conversations. So anyway, he's sitting down with this guy, and the guy's giving him the whole spiel, you know, we know the ignorant rhetoric that the Klan believes, and he's just sitting there and saying all these offensive things about why he thinks black folk are inferior.
You are. So now, I'm sitting there listening to this guy tell me that I'm a criminal, and I'm lazy and on welfare, and my brain is smaller than his. What he was saying was indeed offensive. But here's the difference between me and most other people. I did not take offense to it. And I'll tell you why I did not take offense to it. Why should I be offended by somebody who knows nothing about me? He only met me 10 minutes ago. He sees the color of my skin and has made this assessment. So why should I take offense to somebody who's telling a lie? I just let him roll on with it because it didn't make sense what he was saying.
Of course.
So I figured, how can I be offended by somebody who's all twisted?
Right.
Who obviously doesn't have the foresight to see that he's wrong.
Exactly. So Daryl Davis is obviously an enlightened man. It's hard to sit across from someone who's saying, all these different things that you're bred to be a criminal, you're inferior, you're ignorant, your brain's smaller than everyone else, you're not a normal human being. To sit there and listen to that vitriol and not be offended because you realize the person's ignorant. They have no clue what they're talking about. And I feel like we all have these conversations nowadays, with people that are pushing these Marxist ideologies and who are saying overtly racist stuff. We talked about Whoopi the other day. We talked about, the Holocaust and all that. People say these things and they think they're righteous in doing it. But the problem is too with Marxism is they try to shut down opposing opinions. They don't want to sit down and have a conversation. They just want to punch you in the face, stab you in the chest, run you over with cars, burn your house down. But definitely, Milk. It's fantastic conversation. They talked for about 2 hours, and he goes into detail about all these conversations he had and going into folks' home and all the backlash he gets, from the other side who doesn't agree that you should sit down with someone who's in the Ku Klux Klan. You should hate them back. Hatred breeds hatred, though. Yeah, I've seen that movie, The Black Klansman. Yeah, it's based on a true story. Spike Lee took a lot of license with it, but it was about a black police officer in Colorado in the 70s who there was a chapter of the Klan, and he actually met David Dukes, but he would call them on the phone and pretend to be a white guy who wanted to join the Klan to infiltrate them, because it was a hate group. Excuse me. His name is Daryl Davis. Yeah, please, if it's still on YouTube. I know there's many, like the JRE clips, the Joe Rogan clips are still on YouTube of this. There's a bunch of them. But the whole show might still be on YouTube. All right, so anyway. So Daryl Davis was explaining why, it didn't really offend him. So as they were talking, they had a bucket of ice. And there were sodas sitting in the ice. And as they were sitting there talking, it'd been about an hour. The ice was melting and the sodas were shifting. We all know that sound, right? That it makes like shh. But anyway, that happened. And as they were sitting there, they didn't realize what the sound was. There was so much tension between them. This leader of the Klan, this black gentleman, we're sitting here having a conversation. The Nighthawk standing there, he's strapped. And this noise, it startles both of them, and they go into fight or flight mode.
Foreign entity of which we were ignorant, that being the bucket of ice cans of soda, entered into our little comfort zone via the noise that it made. We became fearful and accusatory of each other. So the lesson taught is ignorance breeds fear. We fear those things we don't understand. All right? If you do not keep that fear in check, that fear in turn will escalate and breed hatred because we hate those things that frighten us. If you don't check that hatred, it in turn will escalate and breed destruction. We want to destroy those things that we hate. Why? Because they frighten us. But guess what? They may have been harmless and we were just ignorant. And we saw the whole chain unravel to almost completion. The last component being destruction.
All right, so yeah, that's what we've been talking about. Ignorance to fear, to hatred, to destruction. And he goes on, and he talks about what happened in 2017 in Charlottesville, which is the culmination of all these different things. On both sides, guys. There were white supremacists there, and all of their ignorance. There really were white nationalists, people who believe stupid ideologies. But there was the other end of the spectrum too. People like Antifa. I've never understood, like, if Antifa really wants to fight racism, they really want to fight fascism and all that stuff, why don't they infiltrate these groups? Why don't they seek them out? There's still people, there's still pockets of people who believe that way. If you really wanted to fight racism, then go fight it. I've never understood that, with Antifa and BLM. But that's not what they want, right? They want to shut everybody up. They don't want to talk. They don't want to have a conversation. They want to destroy and burn things down now as well, which makes them just as bad as the KKK. I believe in this, having conversations, having discussions. Fighting ignorance. How do you fight ignorance? You educate people. Let's see. Yeah. So he talks about Charlottesville.
We did see that whole chain unravel to completion. 3 years ago, on August 12th, 2017, in Charlottesville, Virginia, which is like 2 hours from my house. On August 12th, 2017, in Charlottesville, Virginia, there was a lot of ignorance in Charlottesville. There was a lot of fear in Charlottesville. There was a lot of hatred in Charlottesville. And what did it culminate in? It culminated in destruction. When a white supremacist got inside his vehicle and drove full force into a crowd of counter-protesters trying to murder them, he succeeded in injuring 20 and murdering a young lady named Heather Heyer. So that whole chain is there.
A lot of the problem too is the counter-protesting, man. I mean, if someone wants to go and have a protest, whether we believe their ideologies or not, I believe in total free speech, even what is classified as hate speech. First Amendment all the way, right? Because the only way to combat hate speech is with better speech, right? Having a conversation, having a discussion. So, I mean, I believe anyone should be free to tell us what they believe. And I think that's the only way we're going to be able to know who is ignorant of the truth, right? Let them speak their mind. Even the good book says, a fool is known by his much speaking. OFC Nation, good morning, brother. Prepper Plumber, man, good morning. I didn't know you was in here. Good to see you, man. I know y'all already at work. That's what I'm talking about. Gee, what's going on, man? People in the hood was mad at him because they felt he should have came and helped them like he did the Klan. He tried to explain his reason. Okay. I see what you're saying. Sitting down and having conversations. All right. So anyway, he kind of ends. He talks about the solution to racism. What we've been discussing here this morning. Educating people. You got to fight the ignorance. You have to go down to the root of where all this comes from.
If you want to solve this problem of racism, we need to stop focusing on the symptoms. Don't worry about the fear. Don't worry about the hatred. Those are just symptoms. That's like putting a Band-Aid on cancer. You got to go down to the bone and treat it at its source. The source of all this is ignorance. Ignorance can be cured. The cure for ignorance is called education. So you fix the ignorance, there's nothing to fear because you fear what you don't know. When you cure the ignorance, you know something. There's nothing to fear. If there's nothing to fear, then there's nothing to hate. If there's nothing to hate, there's nothing to destroy. So we need to focus on the ignorance, and we address it with exposure and education and conversation. We spend way too much time in this country talking about the other person, talking at the other person, talking past the other person. Why not just spend a little bit of time talking with the other person?
That's what I'm talking about. Talking with people, and it's not always an easy thing to do because you have to check your feelings at the door. You know, if you're gonna have conversations with someone, especially who's at the opposite end of the political spectrum or the ideological spectrum, or like this gentleman who's sitting across with someone who hates you for no other reason because you're just ignorant. You know, because they've been taught, they've been bred into it. But that's where it starts. Start a conversation. It's not going to happen overnight. It didn't happen overnight for him, but it did happen because he didn't give up. You know, he didn't let his feelings get the best of him, and he kept trying and he kept showing these people, man. Yep, education, man. I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it, man. I believe in it. I believe in it. It's one of the reasons I'm on YouTube doing this thing, trying to reach people, because now it seems like, I don't know, just growing up in the 90s, it seemed like we were seeing the end of this type of racism. You know what I mean? It seemed like we were seeing the end of it. You know, the dream that Dr. King had was coming to fruition, you know. And then we elected the first Black president in our country. And then things turned, and it seemed like things started to go downhill in the other direction. You know, and now look what they're changing the definition of racism. People are again starting to judge people based on the color of their skin again. They're talking about segregation again and all these different things. And so in order to fight it, I just think we have to have a conversation. We can't get caught up in the hatred of it. Even though they try to shut us down and say, you can't say this, you can't say this. We're not even going to talk to you. We're not going to give you a platform. We're not going to let you share your opinion. We don't want to hear it. You know, we still have to try because there are people we can reach. And we can't give up, right? We just can't just give up and lay down and put our heads in the sand and say, well, I give up. It's too hard to talk to you. We can't be like that. We can't be them. But anyway, when I was growing up, you never heard anything about racism until Obama shoved it down everyone's throat. I know he was very polarizing. You know, I mean, he's always talked about as this great civil rights leader, but he didn't do anything. He caused so much division. You know, I mean, he was a walk-in, you know, hypocritical statement. Here he is, the first Black president elected twice, you know, maintained an approval rating that was very favorable, and yet he always talked about the oppression, you know, of Black folks and whatnot. So it was just, I never understood it. I never understood he could have been a force to finish squashing all this stuff, but he made it worse and he turned back the clock, and here we are. But he's a Marxist. He knew what he was doing. It's not like he was ignorant of it. He was doing it on purpose. I mean, he's one of the students of Saul Alinsky, just like Hillary Clinton. He's a part of the problem. Now he's worth $150 million, you know, him and Michelle. Anyway, guys, so we're about out of time this morning. I do want to say tomorrow, Sage News Network is going to be on with us. Sage is going to be on with us tomorrow morning. I asked if he'd come on and talk to us about the supply chain issues, specifically related to the Freedom Convoy. He dropped a video yesterday morning. If you guys haven't seen it yet, go check it out. It's just a different perspective on what's going on with all these protests and whatnot, how it affects the supply chain, and what to expect in the coming months. Steading, what's up, man? Good morning, brother. You on the road? One of our trucker brothers right there. Care who you are. Hating someone because of race, creed, color, sex, etc. is just freaking wrong, period. In the military, we were taught to work together, and color didn't freaking matter. Exactly, man. When you're in a different country and there's bullets flying, you know, and you're in the foxhole, or you're sitting in your truck on an OP, and you don't care. That person next to you is an American, your fellow soldier. You don't care what color their skin is, who they pray to every day, every night, whatever. You know, they're your fellow Americans, and that's the ideology that we all need to have. It all comes down to respect. You give it, normally it is received in return. all have stated one thing. We all bleed red. Therefore, we're all brothers and sisters. Amen. We're all human beings. We're all the same race. That's the thing. All right, guys. So, anyway. Yeah, we're out of time. We're going to shut it down this one. I appreciate y'all hanging out. Hope you guys come tomorrow so we can get some of that good knowledge from Sage News. Hope you guys have a good Thursday. I'll see you guys out there in the ether. Let's get out there, man. Hope you guys got your reload, man. It's time to reload and return. All right, go out there, engage people, have conversations. Don't be afraid to do it. Don't be offended, because they're going to try to offend you. They're going to call you everything they can think of in the book. But I have faith in our community and in this chat in particular, man. You guys, some of the best folks in the world. I mean that. But hope you guys have a blessed day. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.
Sayonara, sucker.